Hello, we're back. This is the Chelsea FanCast, and I'm Stanford Chidge, and we are very hungover. And in fact, actually, the hangover extends to the technical area of the studio, which is why we're having lots of very technical problems. And you see, the thing about technical problems is that they're technical, which means I can't explain to you how they're working. But anyway,
we just got a thumbs up.
We got a thumbs up. I don't know. Greg just likes sticking his thumb up, mate. You know, that could mean anything. Like, I don't know. That could be.
He's agreeing with you.
Yeah, it could be. I'm going to buy you a pint after the show. Who knows? You know.
No.
Yeah. No. That's okay.
That's not happening. No.
He's so tight. Anyway, back to the football. I thought we'll actually introduce this little bit of the show, talking about the Southampton match. Really, we have to start. In fact, as the match started with Essiens, and I've got to say, I was surprised to see him start. I really was very surprised to see him start. I thought that we'd start with Mikel, but why do you think he started with Essiens, Ross?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is he just wanted a bit more physicality, because that is what Essiens brings. You know, a bit like Ramirez. That's all I've got, I'm afraid.
That's all I got to say about
that. The Basel
that.
game had been so awful that perhaps he just wanted to put somebody in and see whether the mix got changed. You know.
I mean, I can see what it was, but I mean, poor old S. That was an absolute howler, that first goal, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I didn't see it because I was too busy running around and dragging the big flag out.
The flag.
So I couldn't believe it when I walked in after 3 or 4 minutes to see that it was 1-0. No idea what had happened. No one seemed to be able to explain it. Very few people seem to have actually got a clear view of it first time round, at least to...
People didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
it looked like the touch of someone who's played a lot of five-a-side in training but isn't match fit, and it was bizarrely reminiscent of Joe Cole passing it to James Beattie in the first minute of a game against Southampton.
Yeah, I remember that.
Jose's, I think it was in 2004-05. Is it in his first spell?
It wasn't far off, was it? I'll tell you what is. I mean, the other thing we should really say is the comedy dive that he did. And I mean, what I'm miffed about most of all with this is the fact that when he did it, when he went down, you know, I turned to Joe, no less a man than Joe Tweeds, in fact, and I said to him, "That referee's complete," and I can't really finish the sentence, but you get where I'm coming from, you know. And Joe turned around and said, "Mate, he dived." I said, no, he did, you know. And anyway, I go and watch it on Match of the Day, and it was just... I mean, they had the perfect view of it. I mean, he was like 5 foot away from the guy when he flopped over. It was embarrassing.
Also, unfortunately, so was the referee.
Oh, he was appalling all match.
No, but the referee was actually standing by the dive. That made it slightly more...
Yeah, that's true.
We lacked any kind of composure or influence in the first half. I mean, that was one of 3 really, really stupid free kicks that we gave away in shooting distance.
And that was beyond stupid.
Yeah,
because it was such a ridiculous
more than the rest
dive.
of them, but...
Look, getting it back to old the S Express, who I love. Joey Essiens, maybe we should call him. But I mean, what is the future for him? Because I mean, if he played that game in a way that suggests to me that he doesn't really have a big future at Chelsea.
But
Johnny.
Also, he never played him in midfield at Madrid, did he?
No.
He played him just at fullback all the time.
So. He did.
I think it's really tough coming in, having played, literally maybe a couple of hours worth of football throughout the entire season. Quite an important game. And of course, the catch-22 is he needs minutes to play better. I mean, I don't think
he's not going to get them, is he?
Death now. Well, he might do in the league Cup.
Well, I was going to say him and Mikel were brilliant against Arsenal. Yeah, they were, weren't they? So
also, perhaps the pressure isn't on as much because everybody else is not figuring in the first team.
I think that's a really good point.
He was hugely under pressure. I think he was trying to impress. I suspect that even that pass back in the first 15 seconds was...
and then he's on a yellow.
I'll do something clever. Yeah, and then he's on a yellow. Mourinho then said he'd taken him off because he was on a yellow. But
being very kind, I think.
It was being very kind, yeah.
But, actually, that's that having been said, I think that's a really nice bit of man management by Mourinho. He's very loyal to his players, and he could have hauled him off after 10 minutes, but he didn't.
In all honesty, like with him being on a yellow anyway, I mean, it was perfectly plausible that he was going to accidentally leave his foot in somewhere else, still, or get caught or be sent off or whatever. So
he looked like an accident waiting to happen.
It was truth in Mourinho saying that. It wasn't just because he was bad, it's because he was bad and...
Well, with all great men, there's always, when you're going to lie to somebody, there always has to be a little bit of truth, because then it works better, isn't that right? Not that you do that, John.
Hey, I'm an actor. I lie.
You're an actor. There we go. Hey. And of course, we're always very honest on this show, even if we are lying. Just to let you know that. Talking of which, let's talk to the benches. Can we talk to the benches, please? Benches. Hello, benches. What do you think about S? Because we love him. I mean, but I'm sad to see the decline of a once great player. Is my view. What do you think?
Terrible back pass.
It was, wasn't it?
And he looked way off the pace. Yeah.
Is that all you got to say about that?
Very tough to come back from 2 injuries he's had. Very, very tough. And career set with some people. He's come back and he hasn't really
got back to his best. I don't think his best was too old.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Andy?
Yeah, like Ross said, he looked like he hadn't played much football.
Yeah, I like that answer, Andy. I'm gonna remember what you said, because I'm basically when I get stuck, I'm gonna say what he said. It'd be a much better show. Do you think? I think that's a great idea.
Gary said something really.
I think Gary, they all make good points. That's why they're on our benches, because they talk sense, Ross.
It was a terrible back pass, but even if he got all of it, he was essentially trying to lob.
Well, yeah, who was he aiming for?
Andy Myers did to Dimitri Corrine about.
That would have been a hell of a goal had he done that, though. Don't you think? I mean, obviously an own goal, but a great goal, nevertheless.
Maybe that's what he's aiming for.
Who knows? I'm very sad to see it, because
there was a bit of the Myers in Essiens' performance, actually. Come to think of it,
I think it was mired. It was mired in something, Mr. Kidd.
We just needed an own goal, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think actually, letting a goal in after 13 seconds is pretty much shooting yourself in the foot, so that kind of qualifies as an own goal. I mean, there's only one other theory that I have on Essiens, and I wouldn't put it past the great man himself, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I do believe that Jose could be up to something devious here. I think he might be being devious. He's like, basically, playing Essiens could be his way of saying, we don't have enough players that I want. It's like when he... Yeah, I don't know. I didn't maybe... this was a theory, Pablo. Hang on a second. This was a theory that I did generate in the pub just before I left. So it could be the rantings of a madman.
After the drinks?
Yes.
Oh, OK.
It could be. I'm just kind of like putting a caveat on that, but...
Anyway. I don't know. We're playing midweek weekend, and then Christmas coming up. We're going to have like an insane amount of games. Realistically, Lampard's already played 3 or 2 in a week, and then he ended up having to play another half, so he had to be rested.
Also, we don't know what he's like in training. He might be playing really well in training this year, and he's got very nervous. There's that other aspect of it.
Anyway, back to the old footy. I do think, a lot of people, it's very interesting, actually, because wherever we were all there, so we would have heard it, but actually the mood was pretty abysmal for most of the first half. A lot of people losing it and being very cross and shouting their tactical advice to the manager, as they do, not least the referee in my case. I reserve my opprobrium solely for the referee. I never coat out the players and the manager. I always coat the referee off.
I thought the ref was fine yesterday.
I know, but I coat him off on principle. No, I coat him off on principle. You've got to get them thinking, even if they're playing brilliantly, also the refs are playing brilliantly, you've got to give them a hard time just to make them think.
Is he hearing you, though, Chidge, do you think?
Yes, because I've got very loud voice.
Very loud, OK.
I can project, mate. Anyway...
No, so can I, but...
I know, darling, but I can...
You're better than me.
No, you're better than me.
Oh, thank you.
I know. You get paid for it. That's the difference. Anyway, it was a pretty poor first half. I honestly thought it was very interesting to see history being rewritten on Twitter this morning to say that actually no, we were brilliant in the first half and the second. So everybody who was saying that we were rubbish in the first half doesn't know anything about football.
I don't think we were as bad in the first half because they were contained and they didn't have any.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have any shots on goal.
But we had. Here's the thing, mate. Do you know what my problem is?
Yeah.
How can you say that we were really good in the first half as well as the second half?
No, I didn't say we were really
not
good.
You. The general
one. You mean the general? Okay.
When we had. I worked it out. Our first shot. On target that we had yesterday. Basically, if you added that timing together with the Basel match, was the first shot we'd had on target in something like 130 minutes. It was ridiculous. So we weren't exactly creating a lot, and I don't think... it took us until half an hour before we had an attempt on target.
No, but we could easily have scored 2 goals in that first half. Oscar had a header and Torres had a header.
That's what I'm talking about. We hadn't actually got anything on target before that happened. Well, I suppose it was a good half an hour.
I'm comparing it with the Basel game. The commitment was about 4 yards faster in the first half than it had been against.
Well, you say that, but I actually still felt that there was not enough fluidity, but more to the point, there was not enough passion on there because they weren't getting... Southampton, interestingly enough, this is another theory, this is not a drunken theory, but a lot of sides have come to Stamford Bridge, if you noticed, and have bullied us a bit, and... if we kind of succumb to that, we don't tend to play very well. But when we kind of man up a bit and give as good as we get, suddenly we actually take control of the game. And I think that's what happened yesterday.
I think it's partly a fitness issue. I thought Southampton must have expended so much energy in that first half. It was insane seeing how quickly they were closing people down in the middle of the park.
It was like 4 or 5 players run
so,
to one.
That's why Ivanovic got a fair bit of space. Is why Hazard got a fair bit of space. Is why Oscar and Massa didn't. Because they were so good at closing down. And
they are.
They need...
But that's their policy. Yeah. That's what he does. He plays a high line and then they just rush you. They're all upon you within seconds.
Yeah. And they're very good at
it. You then have to resort to the long pass because otherwise you're going to give the ball away.
I suspect couldn't have carried on regardless of us equalising and them having to go for it. I suspect they couldn't have kept that up for 90 minutes, even if they are.
I mean,
that level.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's a fair amount of disagreement about that. I mean, one thing I hope to not get any disagreement on, and that's not a threat, is that I thought the support was pretty woeful in the first half as well. In fact, I thought the support matched the passion that I wasn't seeing on the pitch, and but I was very disappointed with the support, and I was particularly disappointed with the booing at half-time. You know, what the hell is wrong with these people?
I didn't hear any of that.
Well, I didn't hear either.
There are a few.
That's in. No, but it was literally on the whistle.
Yeah,
the boos went up.
on there in the whistle.
You sneaked out before.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't.
I had to go and get beer from him, Sam.
These days, if we're not either playing well and drawing or winning, it's an automatic boom.
And it's not just Chelsea that it happens at. It's any big club that isn't winning a home game.
It's just, I hate it. And it's full of entitlement, and it's just very petulant. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, you know, it's a bit like, for me, I compare it to this whole, you know, any time we lose, everybody goes completely mental on Twitter and they're slagging. We're going to touch on this later, actually, slagging people off and stuff. And it's like the same if you do it at half-time. I mean, there's still another half to go. I mean, how stupid are you?
Well, I can't remember it being like this in the past, sounding like a bit of a moany old man, but... You know, if you could win every single game or every single 45 minutes, you wouldn't. You know, there'd be no people wouldn't go to watch football if you knew.
Is it expectations because they think Mourinho has got the magic touch and that we should be winning every game? Is it partly that, or are they Johnny Come Lately? So they people who only been watching the club for the last couple of years?
I think it's.
But yes, sorry, Ross, I didn't mean to cut across you, but that's not true, Johnny. I like to think that it's a load of plastics and Johnny Come Latelys. A lot of them are our age, and they've been going for as long as we have.
They should know better.
Well, you would have thought.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I honestly don't think it's the tourists and the foreigners that turn up and boo. They turn up and don't make any noise.
Because they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, but they won't be the ones that are booing at half-time.
The benches are our kind of... I think, you know, in many respects, the benches are our representatives of the masses at Stamford Bridge. What do you boys think? I mean, look at you lot. Look at them. There's no way on God's happy earth that you would get a boo.
Are they boo boys?
They are not. They're not boo boys.
I heard a few boos, but it wasn't that loud. Sorry. Yes. I heard a few boos, wasn't that loud, but there's all. I think it's just a reaction, it's just an automatic reaction.
It's really petulant, isn't it, Darren?
They think they're at the theatre, you know.
I think expectations have risen over the last 10 years since Mourinho's come in. We expect to win, and we don't win at half-time, and straight away let's boo. It's like a knee-jerk reaction.
But what good is it going to do?
Nothing. It doesn't achieve anything.
It's ridiculous. It would never have happened in the stand behind you, I'm sure of that. Anyway, good stuff from the benches. Now, we're running out of time because we've been waffling on about all sorts of stuff, but we really have to talk... We still have to talk about the great... and I think it was a great turnaround in the second half. And clearly he changed it tactically. I think Oscar was injured, clearly, so he brought Lampard on. But I think the real game changer was taking off poor old Essiens and putting Barr on. And I think that they did go to Mike Bassett's beloved 4-4-something too, didn't they?
Yeah, near enough.
Confusing. I didn't know what was going on, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I think there were two near enough central strikers and two near enough central midfielders, and then Mata and Hazard kind of...
It was almost 4-2-4,
yeah.
The way we were playing it.
You know what? There were times in that game, mate, when it looked like my favourite formation of 4-4-4.
4-4-4, yeah. Well, Hazard and Mata were everywhere.
Yeah. He was. He's here, he's there, we're not allowed to swear.
But I think he just decided that we were losing the midfield battle, so why not be a bit more direct?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, exactly. And actually, the directness is an interesting thing because, I mean, I thought tactically that was something that they clearly tried to do. But, again, it was just the fact they put their foot in. What I would love to know, Ross, is why on earth don't we start games like we play our second halves? You know, because I've noticed this a lot. First half, not so good. Second half, kick up the rear end, much better. And they seem to play with more vigour. They're more at it. They're much better in the second half. And in fact, actually, that was the third out of our last 4 games at home in the Premier League where we've trailed at half time. I mean, it's.
But we've won 2 out of.
We have, but it still doesn't validate my point, which is why can't we start better than we do?
Well, if you say you've got 45 minutes or half an hour of maximum intensity, as they would call it...
Just because you've got your funny coat and you can, you know, perform at the bar now, this is not a blooming debating chamber. It's a valid point.
What do you want it to be, then?
Well, I know I said earlier on that you've got to take the whole match as a whole, and that's fair enough. But my point is this, is that even with that, we do seem to start slowly. We have absolutely gone behind in 3 games out of 4 at home. And then the second half seems such a contrast that we were really at it, we're more physical, with more passion.
It's dependent on the way that the opposition starts. If the opposition starts with great intensity, then you can't start with the same intensity because you're trying to deal with that. In the second half, their intensity is dissipated
That's
somewhat
a good
because
answer.
they're a bit knackered.
I like
and
that.
then you impose the way you want to play.
That's
Perhaps
good.
it's that. So perhaps every team has worked out that a way of dealing with playing with Chelsea is to go at them in the first 25
as well.
minutes.
I mean, we don't have a consistent team selection. We don't have a consistent formation. You wouldn't say that the starting 11 or the squad is actually of a super, top quality.
Reading the script, mate.
Reading the script. Sorry, Chid.
No, it's good. It's a good segue.
It is. I just don't think the players know exactly what they're doing week in, week out, and they can just start on auto, on a good version of auto.
Surely he's a great coach. He's a great manager. Yeah. Surely they must be working out what they're trying to do. He had a very good plan for West Ham. So he must have had a plan for Southampton.
If you're changing the team around,
shouldn't they all be in the same, reading off the same hymn sheet, as it were? Shouldn't they know what his plan is, even if they are different players?
Yeah, there is a lot of. I think there is, but
They're all individuals.
you would have thought that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm with Ross totally on this, and I mean they have been. The only thing that's been consistent about them is their inconsistency recently, and that seems to be a trait that's been running through the whole season. And I'd like to know how they're going to sort it out, because they're going to have to sort it out. Because if we don't sort it out, we aren't going to win anything. And I find it. I mean, whilst I have all the patience in the world for Mourinho and the players to a certain extent, you know what they say, don't you, about madness? The first sign of madness is repeating the same mistake. So you need to iron out things like that, and they need to become more consistent. And it'll be curious to see how long it takes him to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder, because actually Hay is not going that badly, really. We're through our Champions League, we're almost certainly going to top it. We're second in the league coming up to Christmas with a team that notoriously folds ahead of us. What is there really to worry about?
There isn't.
We're still actually getting results in most of the games. Which is good.
In that context, absolutely right. I mean, I think we're in great shape. But the thing is, I think we also know what both that manager and this group of players are probably capable of. And the only thing I'm saying, really, I'm not having a kind of a Mongfest moan a la Twitter. I'm just saying that the one area they really do need to improve on, I think, is their consistency, because you can't go through a whole season of turning up one week and absolutely murdering West Ham, and then getting duffed up by Newcastle, and the Basel match was a bit And I think consistency will iron that out. And the great thing about Mourinho when he was here first time, I mean, those are the days when if you went 1 or 2-0 up, that's game over. Because they had that consistency, and he was really good at that.
They had that ability to strangle the game.
Different players, different timing.
And I did think that in
the great Carvalho.
All right. My darlings, we do have to move on. We have a break. We have little advertisements for people. Not for you lot listening on Mixlr, if you still are, or on YouTube when you watch this on Wednesday. But for the people out there, it's time for them to go and look at adverts for deodorant and other interesting products. We will be back in a minute.
Have I voiced any of them?
Probably.
Oh, good.